What's up everyone, welcome to today's video, welcome to the Video Game Fight School channel. Thank you very much for tuning in. We're going to be delving into some of the combat mechanics of Gotham Knights and basically addressing a claim that someone made. One of my audience members, basically left a long comment leaving a few claims that Gotham Knights was somewhat bereft of a good combat system. In fact, the word they used was that the combat system was shallow. Now, I'm going to address this by showing the combat mechanics in Gotham Knights. I'm going to measure it to the combat mechanics in Assassin's Creed Odyssey and even Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order so that we can see if there's actually any discrepancy in the measure of combat options that are available within these three games. This way, you'll be able to, for yourself, judge and see if Gotham Knights is actually shallow in its combat system. So let's go ahead and start with the game at hand. So Gotham Knights, because it's an RPG, provides you a series of abilities by giving you basically 5 ability systems in total. Already you see that there are 4 right here in front of you in terms of, say, what's his name, Robin. He has a Slugger, Shadow, Tinkering, and Knighthood, which these ability trees here, they basically add more stats to most of his base abilities, but then give you some, sort of variations to them. So adding attack damage or adding the number of enemy NPCs something can affect. And then you have the Knighthood tree, which comes with traversal. And then from traversal, it just moves into some other things in regard to aerial attack. So however you want to categorize these combat trees, I've seen some people say that, oh, these combat trees don't really do anything because, in reality, all they do is basically increase your stats. Yo, I'm going to open the skill tree of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and you're going to see how basically its ability tree is about increasing your stats, making you a more powerful Jedi. I've beaten that game 3 times. I played almost every holiday since it came out. This was the only holiday that I did not play it, so we're going to go ahead and see that when I fire up that game. Now, you add the momentum abilities, which are 8 of them, and if you think about the complexity where Gotham Knights actually does kind of shine, is that it gives you these options across 4 very distinct characters in their playstyle. Anyone who has actually played Gotham Knights knows that every single one of these particular characters feel like night, day, winter, and summer. They all play very differently for the most part, and this is because of the way that they're actually designed. So when you take these systems and look at how many of them have been done for the different characters, it makes sense to me that you would do something like this for all your characters. If you took, say, maybe a complex skill tree per character, you're talking about a whole different game. You're looking at a game like Tom Clancy's The Division 2, which we have at least 4 or 5 skill trees in that game, but that is based on one character that you create in the game. That is also a live service game. So looking at all of these systems together, you have to think about their animations, you think about the way they interact with enemy types, and so on and so forth. Another thing this person claimed was that Gotham Knights has not got the enemy diversity that was actually as much as, say, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. And I laughed because I thought, man, this is very interesting because across the board within this particular game, you have about 5 factions, which all provide different enemy types, enemy classes. They fight differently. They do different things. And because it's an RPG, they have their weaknesses. If you're playing against regulators, you're going to see the drone operators, the heavies. You're going to see those with machine guns or whatever it is, so on and so forth. If you go with, say, maybe the freaks or whoever it is that you're dealing with, you're going to realize that these ones all have all kinds of different things. Regulators have got the whole map today. And you're going to realize that they work differently. You're going with the Talons. The Talons have different, Court of Owls sub-factions. And then you're going with the League of Assassins. And you realize that that's also bringing to you, a different set of enemy NPCs. So when you think about the humanoid enemy NPCs here in the game, you're looking at about 5 to 7 to 6. If you want to count the Mambat, faction, I think they're part of the League of Assassins. But you're going to see that there is enough diversity within a Batman game. If you fire up a game like, say, Batman Arkham, how much enemy diversity is in a game like Arkham Knight? Not a lot. So I don't see where that, comparison comes into play. Now, we're going to do this experiment. We're going to look at what I've shown you with these numbers, and I'm going to show you Assassin's Creed Odyssey. We're going to look at the skill tree that your Misthios has, and we're going to compare and see if there's anything that Gotham Knights has not checked off the box in providing combat ability systems for the player. All right, we're here in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and we are looking at our skill tree for this particular character. This is your Misthios. Now, you have like these basic skills that you pretty much will unlock as you're progressing through the game. And then you have 3 different areas for you to basically level up your skills. a hunter area, which allows for your projectile abilities improving upon them. You have one for your warrior ability, which pretty much is a tree that gives you some really cool, attack abilities. And then you have your assassin for stealth. Now, this is not necessarily that much more complex in a sense than, say, Gotham Knights when you were to do a numerical addition of everything. You're already seeing that this particular skill tree has you some range, some melee abilities, and so on and so forth in the mix, but this is just all for one character. Gotham Knights took this, spread it across 4 characters, and you can already see that there is a lot more diversity in a game like Gotham Knights, because each individual knight is going to approach a lot of these different areas in their own gameplay in a very interesting way. Now, what's even crazy is a lot of the different sub-levels of these particular abilities are some that just give you a few more interesting perks on top of your already base ability. Like, oh, now your bow can do more damage to this guy. Or if you actually get, spotted, you can now auto lock on somebody else. Or say, with your melee, you can pretty much, do some perfect dodges and do a strike of some kind. In fact, the game is so user accessible, a Ubisoft game, that they allow for you to reset all your ability points so that you can pretty much come back in and spec to whatever it is that you want to go, which is really nice. But in the case of Gotham Knights, you share ability points across all the different characters. It's not really grindy. You can get all your stuff done without any problems. So looking at these systems, you have to ask yourself and say, okay, what and where does Gotham Knights fall short? Another thing this person claimed, and I'm making sure I'm covering all this, is the enemy types. And I said to myself, like, in a game that has a lot of human characters, what kind of enemy diversity will you expect? Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, even though this is a game I cited, has humanoid characters, but also has a lot of different creatures like plants and animals. But a game like Assassin's Creed Odyssey is a game that's set in ancient Greek. So you do have, because of the wildlife, you have some animalistic type creatures. But for the most part, a lot of your enemy classes are human and humanoid classes in a sense. And so I don't see anywhere where you can actually make this comparison like Gotham Knights is some kind of a shallow game because it doesn't meet these criteria. I think it's all a matter of personal preference. A lot of these folk need to just admit it and say, I don't like the game because I don't like the game. There's nothing wrong with that. I think you'd be more respected if you just said that. But making all these weak arguments are just straw men to try to, tear down Gotham Knights like you have some kind of clairvoyant frame of mind regarding what a video game should look like, when in reality, Gotham Knights is one of those generic video games that kind of checks off all the boxes that other video games that have been ranked and rated higher actually did check. So I'm just shocked as to how anyone else can say that. Now, I'm sure somebody's going to say, the open world of Gotham Knights is not interesting to me. That's perfectly fine. In fact, Assassin's Creed Valhalla bores me to death because I don't like the open world. The reason I played Odyssey in all of the 3 Assassin's Creed games that they brought out in this range of Witcher-esque Assassin's Creed games is because I like ancient Greek, storyline and setting and all that. That was the only reason. I could not play Valhalla more than like 3 hours. Origins, I could not play for more than even 2 to 3 hours because those worlds were just never appealing to me. But this one, ancient Greek, looking at all of the different characters and so on and so forth, that was already an interesting point. And so it drew me into the game and I was able to play and complete the story. Now, I'm not playing any more of the game because I've already had my feel. Game is super grindy as heck and you will never finish this gameplay loop if you continue to play. I guess that's how they left it though, so that you have a lot of stuff to do even post game, which is something that a lot of games that have an RPG-esque nature in their action adventure style will put in place. Something that Gotham Knights did. My goodness. All right, let's go to Jedi Fallen Order so we can just finish up this video. All right, so we're here in Bogano. I guess this is where I basically landed when I was running around. I'm looking for a few more, what do they call achievements in this game? I think like 6 more, and I'll 100% the game on Steam. So we're going to go ahead and look at Cal Kestis' own ability tree. So his abilities consist of, lightsaber, force, and survival abilities. Some of them are for traversal, like, your wall jump and your wall run and all of that stuff. And you attain them as the story progresses. So in this case with Jedi Fallen Order, they tied some of your abilities to story progression. In Gotham Knights, what happened was they kind of tied it to story progression and also activity progression, which is what kind of made everything weird. If they had done maybe story progression where you can actually do your, heroic traversal, I think that may have landed with a lot of people. But hey, it's a video game. Sometimes you got to work a little bit to achieve something. Now, looking at Cal Kestis, because this is one of my favorite games, his own skill tree or ability tree is broken down into three major aspects: survival skills, the lightsaber skills, and then his force attunement skills. So when you look through them, it's actually just somewhat like the Assassin's Creed one that you guys just saw, and a little bit of some kind of a fake overlap that you think is going on, but it's not. Look at where there's a breakage in the link from, all of your lightsaber abilities, even all the way to your force and to your survival. With your survival abilities, what you're seeing is things like precision evade, which we have perfect evade in Gotham Knights. You have your improved stims. Basically, when you use a stim from a stim canister, you're getting basically a little bit more healing. Now you have maximum life increase just from an entire skill on your ability tree. You have better blocking. That's an entire tree. You now have maximum life increase, an entire tree. You now have a better agile deflection when you can actually deflect the bolts, and now you now have more personalized stims. This is an entire tree that just improves most of what you're healing and blocking for. This is how video games are made. You basically take your character and have a progression and some kind of a, power creep that gives them a little bit more improvement to their abilities by and large. I saw a lot of people say the Gotham Knight skill tree is so basic because all you're doing is increasing numerical stats. I read many comments. I'm like literally the only YouTuber that is still talking about Gotham Knights and how a lot of gamers basically treated that game like trash when they've played other games that are actually less in terms of, say, mechanics depth than Gotham Knights, and they hailed it and said, oh, wonderful. Is it because the game has a big sky system like this that you think, oh, the graphics are just great? Yo, they made both games in Unreal Engine 4. Chill out. It's just a design decision from the design team. There's nothing really too special about it. Gotham Knights could have looked like this if the team actually wanted for it to look like this. It's not hard. I mean, you think about it, a lot of the developers that actually do level design and stuff, they just follow the art direction of the game. Gotham Knights was going for a more artistic way. So many people say things like that, and I'm like, man, we really need to wake up our gamers to learn a little bit more about game development concepts. And I purposefully brought Jedi Fallen Order here because I wanted to highlight the fact that they're being made in the same engine. They have access to similar options in terms of being able to code and do the same thing. And it's an engine that's very accessible to a whole bunch of people. So looking at that, you really have to go ahead and say, man, so what is really the big deal here? Why are people so, why do people have their knickers in a twist when it comes to, Gotham Knights compared to other games? I think it's just a matter of preference. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, like somebody telling me that there's more enemy diversity. And then when I broke it all down, you literally have a bunch of troopers that are actually counted as each individual enemy type, but they're actually subclasses under the trooper enemy type. You have droids. You have your animal-based creatures, which are basically all of Bogano in a sense. You have other animal-based creatures and plant-based creatures, a Tomb Guardian style enemy, and then you have your Night Brothers and your Night Sisters in Dathomir, and then everything else is just basically, your bounty hunters and your droid classes. So at the end of the day, if you think about the context of Star Wars, you should have these many characters or enemy classes to be able to showcase exactly what it is you're doing with a Star Wars game where you're visiting different, planets and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, I think a lot of these criticisms when it comes to, say, some of the mechanics and the systems, I think they don't hold any water. Now, let me go ahead and address some of the different criticisms that go into things like presentation and visual aesthetics and all the above. I can also understand that. That, in my opinion, is not a matter of a lack of talent or skill. I think that was just an art design choice that did not work out to appeal to a lot of people. It's that simple. Because Unreal Engine, when you actually fire up an Unreal Engine project, the base project almost looks exactly like this. Like the skybox from Unreal Engine 4 is almost like this, with the sun and a day and a night system that you can program. And then all the other elements like volumetric fog and so on and so forth, you can go ahead and start adding those things. So I don't think it's in fact, this game from an aesthetics point of view is actually much more basic in execution than Gotham Knights based on the elements that have actually been placed in this world. Like, look at this. If I actually called up a level designer that uses Unreal Engine on YouTube and say, hey man, can you fire me up something that's as good as this? It will literally take them. I'm not going to overshoot it, but many of these level designers that are still in college and university, now, granted, because this has already been done as a level, this will take them like an hour to put together, if not less. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is simple. I'm saying that this probably just its look and its completion is supposed to look like a bereft, abandoned planet for the most part. Now, in terms of design and in terms of having to come up with this particular planet, it would have taken a whole lot of time for them to be able to conceptualize this and build it in a gameplay playable way. That's why the games take 4 or 5 years to make. Anyways, I thought I'd make this video, kick this thing down the road, and I'm going to pin this on my channel, my YouTube channel, just so that when I get these concerns, I could just put a link there and just say, you know what, watch or educate yourself, or maybe not. It's fine with me. All right, I'll get out of your hair. Thanks so much for watching the video. I appreciate you guys' time and audience. And man, hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.